Couldn't get away from myself. I wish you tomorrow brings I won't back down to anything. I was hoping that I was made for something else. I can't wait.
Word this session. Yay for more virtual sessions. I mixed feelings about it. Now I live about an hour from JSU, so I don't. I'm not sad about having to drive long distances to go and present. But I will say that teaching teachers how to use technology with technology has been challenging. Engaging people in this format is challenging. So I don't know how many of you are used to the Zoom platform. There are some reactions. If you're on a computer, it'll be toward the bottom, but the reactions allow you to do like a thumbs up or a hand raise or something like that. But anyway, I would love to know how many of you had to do either Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, some kind of live situation with your students or with your staff at your school. Give me a yes in the chat or a thumbs up if you know how to do the reactions. So yeah, so you guys are maybe accustomed to being an attendee in one of these, but if you've ever had to lead it, it is a whole new kind of teaching. I know several teachers who also, for the first time, videoed themselves teaching lessons to send those out to students and basically to their families. That's another level of intimidation, because when you are trying to deliver instruction and you feel like, when I'm on video, I'm constantly going, what is it with my hair? So you're so critical of everything. I have a friend that she has 4th grade. She's in a private school, and they had to do video lessons every other day and send them out to their students. And she said this just took hours and hours of her time, but that's because she wanted it to be perfect, because she was so intimidated to send that to kids and their families, because she felt like there was this judgment. I was like, they are just happy to have your instruction, I know. But the one thing she said, and some of you may have discovered this too, as frustrating and as time consuming as that was, it was nice because she's like, I'm gonna use these videos next year, like put them on a website or whatever, which is what I love. I love that she's willing to, put that out there. I do think it is gonna be something teachers are gonna like eventually, to put those videos out there for their students to review later. I see Jill giving me the head nod. And you got a new virtual background, awesome. All right, so we are going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. Now, I'm going to put this presentation link out here one more time. It's also going to be in the slideshow, but this way you'll have it. All the resources are there in it. If you're like me and you're such a cheater and you look ahead, don't be afraid of how many slides are in this slideshow. Like, I always overplan. My husband fusses at me because it's like midnight and I'm still putting stuff in there. He's like, really? It's an hour and a half. I said, I know, but I want to make sure I've given them so many opportunities to go back and to look over stuff. And really, Seesaw is more than just an hour and a half kind of thing, but we're going to hopefully press on with that. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen, which is always fun. And so I see that several of you are already in the presentation, which is awesome. And then I also have to manipulate some of my controls so that I can see, what the heck is going on here. Let me pull my chat up over here on one side, and I think we'll get going. All right, so you will see my contact information on here. And some of you may feel very disoriented because when you share a screen in Zoom, all of a sudden what you're looking at goes away. So, so hopefully you can get used to that. What happens is, if you're on a computer, typically is it goes full screen. and you're like, wait, I need to put something in the chat, I need to see something else, you can usually hit escape on your computer and it will minimize this some so you can access other things like the Seesaw website when we go there. So just know as we're kind of going through this that that you may have to do a little bit of that manipulation, and I may have to stop sharing my screen so that you can access those things. But if you don't have my email, write that down. If you do Twitter, that's my Twitter handle. I actually have two of them. I meant to put the other one on there. The one that's called MRS Caldwell 0. I use that one for a mix of kind of personal and education stuff, but this is my work one. And then also I've got ATMPD there. That's our hashtag, and that's our handle, I guess, for Twitter. We love it when you give us a shout out. Because with all of the focus right now on the State Department and what's happening next, you know, little programs like ours always love any kind of public shout out and acknowledging the fact that we're really assisting teachers in learning these platforms. I also have a disclaimer on the bottom here. I've taught sessions on Seesaw before. I rely heavily on being in person with people and saying, okay, everybody go here. Now everybody click here, and I walk around and make sure it's happening. So it's much harder this format. One of my colleagues, Dr. Barry Wigington at UNA, did a Seesaw presentation for our virtual summit. It was phenomenal. So I totally borrowed a lot of his slides. So don't judge if everything doesn't match, because it's not going to, because I mixed in some of my stuff and some of his stuff. But I have his permission, and he is amazing. And so if you want to see any presentations that we have done, you can go to our website, and that's on the next slide. I have just some Zoom meeting norms. I'm not really worried about bandwidth, but typically if we are having bandwidth issues or if anything gets weird, I tell people sometimes cutting off your video will help with bandwidth. But we have a small group this morning, so we had some in our summit, almost 300 in a group. And so when you have 300 people and lots of people with their camera on, it gets to be crazy. I have it set so that your mic is muted automatically when you come in, but feel free to unmute your microphone and say, hey, Brandi, I have a question, because I'm a fast talker. So I really need you guys to jump in and say, can you say that again or go back? Obviously, if all 30 people did that the whole session, we would never get finished, but feel free to unmute your mic if you have a question. You can also use the chat. I do have a few tasks in here, which are mainly going to be go to the Seesaw website, sign in, and put a class code in. So I will give you some time for that. It says it's quiet time. I may end up playing some music because I don't love quiet time. But that I am recording this session, and I'll be sending you a link. It'll be an unlisted video in YouTube. So you can access that link and you can rewatch this if you so desire. And you can pause and you can go through, and then you also have the slides as well. This is my crew with Alabama Technology in Motion, and this is our website. I run the website. There's tons of resources there. I hope that all of you will go there and check out some of our other PD sessions. I have recordings from our virtual summit too that are on there. Hold on, let me answer the husband. Have you fed the dog? No. This is the other joys of being at home. Those of you that have kids, I got 3 kids, so I've locked the door. I've locked myself in here, but they will text message or knock. But our website has, if you go there to PD and webinars, there's all kinds of resources that you can access. Also, we have an entire remote learning page with how-to videos, with several tools that you may be interested in. And then we also have a Power School page because you're going to hear a lot over the next month. So here's a little teaser about Schoology, which is going to be the state-offered learning management system. Many schools I talked to said, oh, we're not going to bother with Schoology this year. But you may be the first to find out right now. Schoology is how the State Department is going to be delivering that remote learning curriculum. Unless your district has something specific that you're going to be doing virtually, just know that Schoology is going to be the platform that that stuff lives in. And so this afternoon, I am learning Schoology for 3 hours, and I'll be learning the second half of Schoology tomorrow afternoon for 3 hours. And I'll be designated trainer for Schoology. So you may be hearing me talk Power School and Schoology from this point forward. But that's kind of what we'll be doing a lot of, and you can go to our website and get more details on that. At the bottom here is our presentation link. If you did not get it in the chat, you can get it here. I use tinyurl.com. It is a URL shortener, and you can go in there and customize what is at the end. And so that is what I have done. All right, so I think we're gonna get started with the content. Like I said, I'm a fast talker. There's 50-something slides in here. There's no way we're gonna get through all of them. I wanna go slow enough so that it makes sense, but then I also want to go at a pace so that we can see the majority of the basics of Seesaw. So the biggest thing with any kind of tool, and you guys have probably figured this out, if you are using it, you often want to see the teacher side of it and you want to see the student side of it. But before I get ahead of myself, which is what I was just about to do, I'm going to stop screen sharing. And I am going to put the presentation link in here one more time. And we have 26 right now. That's a pretty good number. And I forgot that I had this because I've been using just a Google form to get a pre-survey. This is something one of my colleagues used. It's the polling feature. So hopefully you are seeing that now on your screen. And as you guys are answering this, we'll start seeing live results. So hopefully you're seeing a poll right now. So somebody give me a yes or a thumbs up that you do see the poll. It's a few questions. Yay, okay. So I know it's there. This is my first time using it. So you guys are going to be answering 6 questions. And as you answer it, we'll start live updating. Oh, this is so exciting. So Dr. Wigington from UNA tried this out. I think Dr. Robert Mabin from UA also did this, and they really liked the poll versus the Google form. All right, so Erin says she does not see the poll. It's possibly in a window behind something. So you might need to manipulate your windows if you're on a computer. If you're on a mobile device, I'm not really sure how you could get to it. But it's okay if you don't get to answer the poll. This is more of a pre-survey to see what people know about Seesaw. So we've got 21 out of 26 so far that have completed it. So I'm going to give us a couple of more minutes. So as people are answering this, I'm just kind of looking at the results as they're coming in. We have a lot of pre-K to kindergarten people and 1st to 3rd grades. And if you looked at the description of this, I did say that it would be like focused on those younger grades, but as I created it, this is really okay for any grade. But I am gonna talk about ways for your students to use it that's gonna be easier for younger grades, but I've seen Seesaw used all the way up through high school. It is such an easy platform, and that's why a lot of teachers like it. And so we're 24 of 26. That's pretty good. So I'm going to do end poll. And now I think you guys can see the poll results. So if we are looking at the poll results, notice we have a lot of pre-K through 3rd grade, which is what I anticipated. couple of other brave folks and a special ed person, bless your heart. And then I'm just looking at my school uses the following. So we have 70-something% of you are at Google Schools. And I know the district that my kids go to is all Microsoft. So I always like to ask this because some of these tools play better with Google or play better with Microsoft. Seesaw really doesn't care, but it is super Google friendly. So if your kids already have a Google email, that may be easier. All right, so I've never heard of Seesaw. I'm sorry, I've heard of it, but I've never tried it. 79%, so that's great. This is perfect for you. We have some people, maybe I've got an account and I've tried a little bit. I've used Seesaw with my students to deliver assignments, not many people, but we have a few. And I've used other tech tools to deliver and receive assignments. We're about half and half on that one. And I ask that because I have people all the time who say, does this mean I can't use Google Classroom? Or does this mean I can't use Teams? Or whatever your school is using. No, it doesn't mean you can't use those things. You can actually marry the two. So as you start hearing about Schoology over the next month or so, does that mean you have to abandon something you've learned? Definitely not. I think you're going to find that many of these resources, if you love them, you're comfortable with them, and you can teach your students how to use them, then no matter what else is thrown at you, you will be able to marry these tools. And Seesaw is definitely one of those. All right, closing out that poll. Yay, okay, that was first try. You guys were awesome. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and let's see if we can, there we go. So we are back to the presentation. I have put that presentation link in again on the chat. And so I'm going to try to keep a lookout on the chat. And since Jill's already been brave and unmuted her mic, if Jill can also holler at me if somebody put something in the chat and I need to stop, then let me know. All right, so what is Seesaw? And this is the Bitmoji of my colleague, Dr. Barry Wigington. So these were so cute, I left his in and I put some of mine in as well. It is a learner-centered communication tool that gives students a safe platform for sharing their interests, artifacts, and understanding. That's a great definition. And then in the background there, you can see kind of his example class. What I love about Seesaw is that learner-centered part of it. And it feels very social. Even our young kids totally understand social media and being able to post things, even though they may not have it themselves, they understand it, they've heard about it, and Seesaw has that feel to it. And so the students' work is posted to the Seesaw classroom and can be visible to classmates and parents. Now, there are some settings that you can determine if you do not want them to see each other's work. But I find that in technology integration, having a larger audience is powerful for your students. Having somebody besides the teacher see their work tends to up their game and their expectations. Now, you as the teacher get to approve their posts. So if it is not up to par, if it is something that you think they would be embarrassed for their classmates to see, obviously you don't have to approve that post to be visible. But we're going to talk a little bit about how you can set up Seesaw so that the student only sees their work or that it is a class sharing platform. So this is a great video, and I hope that you have sound and everything on this video that talks about using Seesaw in the classroom. So we're going to try this out. If you don't have audio, let me know.
Hi, I'm Maya, and I'm going to show you Seesaw. So when you want to add a picture, you click the green plus arrow, and then it depends on what you want to do, but I'm going to do a photo, so I'd click photo. Then the photo pops up and enter it here, and we did this a while ago, but I put it in my portfolio. So I'm going to take a picture of it, and so I put it up. camera's right up here. And I look at the camera, click here, and it gives me a picture. And then there are a few things down here. The drawing is where you can draw stuff in there. The audio is where you can talk about it. Rotate is moving it around. I'm going to do the caption. And then I would write about it. When you're doing the caption, it's basically why you picked this to do, and then you write like your opinion on it, because it's like an appropriate Facebook for kids.
So I love her explanation, and see how she was able to tell us exactly the steps. It is super friendly for any age, but particularly for the younger kids. And so this is a neat little slide that Dr. Rington put together. And you see her cute little picture. He just grabbed a picture of her out of that video. And another bonus, there is a neat tool. If you go to a website called, I think it's called Remove BG. And I'm like, here's a bonus, but now I've got to check it. Remove BG. Remove.bg. You can make a cutout like this and then put it into your presentation. So any picture you have that you want to remove the background, remove.bg. So that's a little trick for this one. So what are some things that Maya said? She selected the artifact from her paper to add to her online portfolio, and that's the Seesaw journal. I love the idea of students having this portfolio, and at the end of the year, this class can be archived. You can have multiple teachers in a class. How amazing would it be for the next year's teacher to be able to see some of the students' work from the previous year? Maya is so proud of her work and she wants to share it. And so using this portfolio situation where students are sharing their work, they have an opportunity to see other people's work, other examples of great, student effort. And it really makes that work more transparent too. What if Maya's teacher wants to use Seesaw for remote learning and doesn't want her students to see each other's work? Used in this way, Seesaw can be more of an electronic assignment tool. So you can use it in two different ways. And that's all in your choice. It's all how you set it up. And I understand that as students get a little older, they become a little more self-conscious about their work. So they may not want a bigger audience, but you have other options if you decide just to make it an electronic assignment tool. You do have other options like a blog that you can set up so that students and families can see model assignments and work. So this is my slide that I stuck in here. We are going to sign in to Seesaw. So just kind of ignore, I've got a little video up in the top and we'll look at that in just a second. But I do want you guys to click on this website. And if you haven't created an account with Seesaw yet, let's take an opportunity and create an account with Seesaw. If you do not have one, you're going to click sign up for free and you'll go through and sign up. You're going to sign up as a teacher. So they have an easy Google sign up. So if you're a Google school, simply use your Google school email. You can use an email sign up for any other type email that you want to use, but be sure you choose I'm a teacher. Remember your login information, because then I'm going to have you guys sign up as a student. But if you use those same login credentials, you will be able to swap back and forth very easily between a teacher account and a student account. So you'll be a student in my Seesaw class. But first, you've got to have an account. So go ahead and do this step. I'm going to give us, I don't think we'll need the full 3 minutes, but I'm going to give us 3 minutes. dance party if you already have an account. All right, I know you're like, there was a minute left. All my OCT people are like, you stopped it early. I do want you to have an opportunity to finish creating that teacher account. I know we had several people who already had a teacher account. You may have been proactive and gone ahead and made an account before this session, or you may be one of these people going, Brandi, just watching the screen is about all I can manage right now, and that's okay too. You don't have to create a Seesaw account during this session. So if you didn't have a chance, or if already you're overwhelmed, it's all good. It's all good. No worries. I don't want anybody to be stressed about it. So keep in mind, I'm recording this session. You will have an opportunity to go back through the slides and do this whole process. So don't worry. We're just going to move on. And when we get to the part where I'm asking you to do something as a student, you can try that. And if you don't have a chance to do it, you can do it later. All right. So how will your students use Seesaw? This is very important. Will you use it for sharing students' best work, or will you use it for submitting online assignments? Now, obviously, they are submitting online assignments regardless, but do you want them to share with their classmates, or just do assignments at home or just at school for you? So when you are a teacher in Seesaw and you're going to start your first class, you're going to have 3 options of how students will join your Seesaw class. This is very important to decide. You have student sign-in mode for class code shared devices. Now, this is one where you are working in centers or stations. This is where you have a cart of devices where every student may be using a different device on different days. So this one is where the students use a QR code or a text code, and they can add items and then they would choose their name when they submit it. This is great for younger kids. It's ideal because they don't have to remember a login, an email. It is not platform specific. This is great for Kindle, iPad, Android tablets, Chromebooks, the old moldy computer that you have. As long as it has a camera, you can use it with this. So shared devices, you can use that first option, class code. The second option, class code 1-to-1, is a little different because the way it works is they have their student code, and that student code has them signed in, and they don't have to choose their name when they are ready to submit something. So they add their stuff and they're signed in because that's their device that they use. The last one is going to give you the most options, and this is if your students are able to use this email or Google option. If they're using Chromebooks, they probably are signing into the Chromebook unless you're using it in guest mode, which I know there are some that have their littles use it in guest mode. And so if they are using a Google email, this last option is the best option. So you got to make that decision based on your class. So if you do that student sign-in mode with the email, that's going to give you the best opportunity for remote learning. And Seesaw really jumped in when everything happened with the pandemic, and they created something called home learning codes. And this is going to give you the best of both worlds. I am not as familiar with those home learning codes, but I went and clicked it just to download one to see what it looked like. And it is just that. It's a text code that those students would put in that one time from home, and then everything in Seesaw would be signed in as them. And it would not share their work with other people. It would just share it with the teacher. When you're setting up your class, you also have a lot of settings that you can adjust. So if you're using that email sign-in and you don't want students to see each other's work, then you're going to have a lot more options here where you can manage your students. You can decide whether they are allowed to like or comment on each other's work. Do you want them to see each other's work? You can turn that on or off. I recommend the new items require approval just because you're going to want to moderate what is seen. And then you can also allow family access, which means that families can download the Family Seesaw app and they can look at only their child's work. So it's a great way to communicate the great things that kids are doing in the class and share it with their family. The family wouldn't see each other's, other students' work. Obviously, if the student is signed in and you're allowing them to see each other's best work, mom can look at that. But when you're giving out these family access, that's only for their child. So we're going to look at the email login, which is what the class I created for us, for you guys to be a student. This is what you'll do. So if you are going to invite students to your class using email, these are the steps, and this is what your screen would look like. You would go here to this screen at the bottom where it says students. You would click that. Now this is what's interesting. Add students to class. You have to make a choice. Are they going to sign in with an email address? Yes or no? This is showing you if you choose the yes option. Then you're going to get this page which gives a code, but they also have to sign in with their email. So they first sign in with an email, then they have a code which allows them to join your class. There's also an invite email. So if your students have emails, you can send this email and it has all of this information. Notice in red over here when the code expires. So the code only stays active, that text code, for 7 days. So if you have new students come into the class, you would have to generate a new code, but it's still going to send them to your class. So just to show you, these are the steps that you would use for inviting your students by email. And so you can see that's got the cute little hands that kind of takes you through all of those steps. You can have up to 150 people join your class. And this is not our code, so do not put that code in there. It will tell you it's a bad code. This is for Dr. Wigington's class that he did. This is how you would add students manually to use the code. Now, if you were having a class that was using shared devices and you wanted them to use the code, you're going to go through these steps. You're going to get ready to add students. And then instead of adding students, let's say I'm not going to add the students. I just want to get to their code. I need to give them their code. They forgot the code, whatever. I can either add students manually here. I can paste a list of students. So let's say that I am going to be using this with pre-K kids. I can actually go and pull my roster and paste all their names at one time, which is super handy. Or if I just want to get to the QR code and not add anything, you click skip. And that was kind of confusing for me when I was looking for the code. Hey, I don't want to add any more students. I just need to get the code. You click skip and it's going to pull up this right here, which gives you the QR code for them as well as the text code. So both of these processes, you're going to find tons of resources on Seesaw explaining this process to you. But depending on what you chose, you'll take one of those options. So this is just a sample. This is not our code, but this is a sample of what will happen. So when I talk about a QR code, if your students are using an iPad, they would just there's a QR reader in the Seesaw app. So all they would do is touch where it says scan, and they would scan it straight from a screen or from a piece of paper. The Chromebook or the laptop has a spot for you to scan the code, and it's going to activate the camera, and they can either hold up a card or piece of paper with that code on it, and it will take them there. So when I talk about the QR code, it's a scanner built in to the Seesaw website and to the Seesaw app. All right, now this is your part. This is where you are going to sign in as a student. Now I'm going to back up just a bit to show you this little video right here. This shows you how to sign out of the teacher account so that you can sign in as a student. And then you'll go back to the same spot and you can actually switch between them. And so I'm just going to show you this little quick video. You'll go up there to your name where you're signed in, go to the gear and click sign out. That's going to take you back to the sign in page, and then you're going to choose I'm a student. This does not get rid of your teacher account. This just allows you to then go back to that gear and swap between teacher account and student account. So I'm going to have you guys sign in as a student, and at the bottom here or right here is our class code. So this is going to allow you to join my class as a student. And then I'm going to have you guys try out one of these assignments. So take a minute, and I am going to unshare my screen and see if I need to answer any questions. And you guys can start using the student account. So now I've got, sorry, I'm trying to get back to the screen with the correct code on it. Here we go. And I'm going to copy this code and put it into the chat as well. All right. There we go. So right now you should be going and signing out of the teacher account that you created with Seesaw. And then putting in a class code. Now it's going to say, when you say I'm a student, it's going to ask you to sign up essentially with an email. Use the same credentials that you use to sign in as a teacher. And then put in our class code. And either unmute your mic or type in the chat if that is just not clear at all. Once you have that done, if you can give me a thumbs up or done in the chat, then we'll move on. Yay, I see lots of students just populating in my class. I've got it pulled up on my iPad. That's so weird, the virtual background. That was a big fail. Okay, I'll cut off my virtual background in a minute and show you the app. Awesome. All right, where do I sign out? Great question, Cindy. So I am going to take just a minute and I'm going to do the screen share again. That's the reason why I made just a quick video. It's back on slide number 9. And this little video right here shows you go up to your name up in the top left, and there's a gear. And when you click on that gear, there's a sign out. Once you have that same email linked between a teacher and a student, you should be able to go to that gear and switch to student. So you're going to do that. And that is really neat because you may start using Seesaw with your colleagues as a place to share some ideas. And you might be a student within that class, but then a teacher of your classes. So I like the fact that you can use those same credentials and sign in as a student and as a teacher. And then that allows you to be able to kind of seamlessly go between the two accounts. All right, so I think we're going to move on to our next step. So you are signed in as a student, and I'm going to have you guys try out your first response to an activity. Now, where in the heck do I see this? It's going to be, there's going to be a light bulb that says activities, and you should have a number there that shows you the activities that need to be completed. I have several of them here. We're only going to look at the one called Introduce Yourself. So if you'll take a couple of minutes and try this out. This is not for a grade, so don't worry if you don't get a chance to complete it. But I want you to try this out. So find that activity and you're going to click where it says add response. And I want you to try adding a response as a student so that you get that experience in Seesaw. right, I'm gonna give us about 30 more seconds for people to finish. All right, I know that everybody did not get a chance to do that, but don't stress if you did not get a chance. What I want to do is I want to show you what it looks like from my perspective as the teacher. Now I'm going to refresh this page because I did not have everyone in the class. But notice that underneath the name of the class, it says teacher. So I like the fact that I can look at this from a teacher's perspective. I actually joined this class with another email. I did an incognito tab and did another email and joined as a student so that I could look at it from a student perspective as well. But so I'm the teacher of this class. And you'll notice any new classes that you start, they have some remote learning and home learning stuff right there for you as the teacher. But I wanted you to see that down here at the bottom, I have 20 unapproved posts. So I set up my class so that I had to approve the posts as they come in. Notice over on the right, I have all of my students' names. Now, one thing I'm not a fan of is that the names are set up alphabetically by first names. So you could possibly, when you paste those names in, if you're doing it that way, you could set it up maybe last first. I don't know, but when I put this together, I wasn't happy that that was the setup. But just an FYI, there's probably somebody who's figured out a way to fix that. But I have 21 now approved posts. So I'm a teacher and I'm going to click review. And so now I can just scroll through. Notice it's very simple. Approve, send back to the student, or delete. If I wanted to approve all at one time, I could. And for something like this, like an introduce yourself, then you may want to just do that. Notice there's a recording here that I can play. And as I go through, yay, some people included pictures. Oh, look, got fancy. She added some great little drawing things there. And you probably figured out how quickly and intuitively a student could use this. Putting in a picture, decorating, adding a recording. So I love the family picture. That's awesome. So any of these things are great opportunities for your students to introduce themselves. So this is a very low risk kind of activity for your students. I love it. She added her face on that little body. It's so cute. So you can see how simple and easy it is for students to do this. And so like, here's the one that I created. And so I click this. This is one of my favorite pictures. I had lost a lot of weight and had hair extensions in, so I feel very glamorous. So how fun is it for students to have a picture of their work or of themselves where they can just record their voice? So think about it. I know right now some of your minds are just like reeling. You can think of a million ways that kids can use this. So this was a super simple way. Notice there's a place for likes. Kids already at a young age know what likes are. You can turn on or off the ability for students to like or comment on each other's. I'm going to approve all. Now, on your end, when you go to the journal, you will see all of the posts that have been approved under journal. And so you can scroll through there and you may have the ability, I can't remember if I gave you the ability to like and comment or whatever, but that is just how simple using Seesaw is for a student. is that once I set up some activities, they understand this is add response. When you guys went here, notice that, you know, who am I? Who am I adding? Because I'm the teacher, so I'm seeing all of these. But I can add responses simply by clicking add response, and I get my different tools. All right, so I'm going to back up to my presentation and kind of go from there, because if not, I'll just get way, way off task. This is a neat video, and you can look at this video at another time. It's where a student's explaining how she used Seesaw, and I think that's one of the best testimonials. So this is really those simple digital tools that you saw: photo, drawing, video you can upload. And the reason why I say this can be any platform is if you're a Google school, it automatically connects there to Google Drive, but you can also grab anything living on your computer and pull that in. You can write a note, which several of you did. It just pulled up like little notebook paper, or you can add a hyperlink. And so those are so simple. Those big pictures are very bold, and your students will understand them. So here's an example of one of the activities that Dr. Wigington pulled. There is a community library full of ready-made activities. And that's another thing that teachers love about this. You don't have to recreate the wheel. I made that very simple introduce yourself activity, but they have entire libraries of activities that teachers have submitted. And notice in this activity, there is how to use the Seesaw camera and using shapes. So there are lots of introductory activities that you can send your students through as they're learning Seesaw, which is kind of neat. They're very simple instructions, step by step. At the bottom there, it says the grades, the classes that it would be appropriate for. You also can like certain assignments. Notice over 3,000 teachers have liked this one. So it's kind of like an Amazon review. If you know it's got a lot of likes, then it's a really good assignment. And then it tells you what it's compatible with. Now, some of these assignments may not be compatible with everything, just depending on what resources are attached to it. So this activity can then be assigned to multiple classes or individuals. So my special ed person, get excited, because you can differentiate your assignments very quickly. When you are ready and you've got this assignment, you're like, yeah, definitely want to save this activity and I want to assign it. I can choose an entire class, or I can choose a specific student. All right, so I'm going to click through and just show you some of these pre-made activities and where you can find them. And I know right now some of you are itching to like go into your teacher account now and play, but just hang tight with me. And you are welcome to, after we're done, try out a couple of the other activities that I have assigned in our class, just so that you can kind of see what you can do as a student. All right, so I am just looking back at the chat. Hold on just one second. All right, I'm back, sorry. So looking at this next slide. So this is if I want to use this assignment, a well-designed activity includes concise sequential instructions. And so this is a really good one. Any of them that you find in the community are going to be vetted by Seesaw. So they are really good instructions. Oh, and I did want to mention, and I clicked right into that activity. Notice that the student instructions are here, but the teacher is using a template, and she put those same instructions on the template. because we all know that when students go to add their response, they may not go back and look at the instructions. So I thought that was a great tip to do the instructions on the template or whatever it is you're having the students respond on if they're using something you created. And so a neat feature in Seesaw is these little icons. And so there's a table here, and I put a video on how to do this. You can use these text shortcuts to add these cool icons into your instructions. That is so perfect for the littles because they are constantly learning about reading, but some of these icons are going to be universal, and if they see them often enough, then they will understand what to do. So they have these text shortcuts when you're creating your instructions that you can use, and notice it's got like a colon, the word seesaw, and another colon, and that's going to put the seesaw icon. So how cool is that? And then I've got a YouTube video here where somebody explains how to put these icons in your instructions. So they're calling these visual cues, which I think that is so clever. So here is another great learning activity from the community. I'm a huge fan of Charlotte's Web. And so this is a really neat activity. It says one of the major characters in Charlotte's Web is Charlotte. How would you describe her? Use 5 adjectives. Also include one way you think Charlotte has changed since the beginning of the story. Use the label tool to write your describing words on top of the picture. So they give them a picture and the students are going to draw on top of it. And so here's the thing Dr. Wigington put in here, love the activity, but I want to make some changes. And so you can go in and edit that activity. So you don't have to use it as is, you can edit it, you can record instructions so that if the students are not good at reading, they can hear your voice explaining it. And so here's one thing, remove the part about how Charlotte has changed. Maybe that's too complex. Remove the example because we don't want them to cheat, and add instructions to the template. Remember that other one that we saw where the instructions were actually there on that template. So that was a great tip. And so, you added the activity by having the students explain their reasoning and use the mic tool. And here we go using those text shortcuts to put the icons in there. And because that last one talked about templates, I added this slide. This is going to be a game changer for many of you that want to create your own assignments. Let me show you how cool this is. If you click here, which is awesome templates, it takes you to the slideshow filled with templates that you can use in Seesaw. You don't have to just use them in Seesaw, by the way. If you want to use them somewhere else, that's awesome too. So if you go through here, the table of contents kind of tells you what you're doing, and then there's a how-to. But if I go through here, and the people that created this, if you want to give them a shout out, they shared this, and it says adding an activity, there's an update on what you need to do, and so look at this. This is so cool. You can use this awesome template they've already created, and they give you information on what to do with this. So basically, you're going to download this as a photo, and then you're going to put it in Seesaw as a template. If you don't, if like I just said a bunch of stuff that all of a sudden you're going, what did you just say? In Google Slides, now I'm in the view only, but in Google Slides, when you go to download things, you can download each individual slide as a picture. And that's how people do a lot of really cool things with these backgrounds and these activities. They download that really fancy slide as a picture. Then when your students add things to it, they can't manipulate these squares. And that's where I have teachers all the time going, how do you drag and drop things? The kids all mess it up. It's because they downloaded this entire slide as a picture and it locks all those elements in. So there's your other bonus. That's one of the cool Seesaw tips, is that you can use these templates. And I found this and it's phenomenal. Another way to support students in Seesaw is creating video tutorials. And I love that students can use the annotation tools to complete math activities. Now, this is better if you have a touchscreen device, because I cannot draw with this crazy trackpad, and many students can't. A mouse is difficult to draw, but if it's just drawing a line, matching some things, that's a little easier. But if you do have some iPads in your room and students can use those shared devices, or they can sign into it with their email and sign out, then they can do a math problem and annotate on it. And so this is just one of Dr. Wigington's tips on this, is that you are going to copy and edit the activity. So you find an activity that you like, you're going to copy and edit. He says you're going to open their worksheet template and take a screenshot of a very small portion of it. And then you're going to add some multimedia instructions or an example and use the drawing tool. And so then you would walk through this example problem with your students and upload a screenshot. And I thought that was a really clever way for you to talk through these things with your students. All right, some other things when it comes to Seesaw is that you need to organize things. I'm not very good at organization, but this is just showing you how, as a teacher, you can go to their activity library. So you're going to be looking in the community, and you have an opportunity to filter things by grade or by subject. And you can even put a keyword in and search for all of the activities that your students might work for your students. And so you may never have to create one. You can just grab one somebody's already created. So you pick out one that you like, and up here at the top, you notice that you would choose it and click Assign Activity. So I would go to Add, Assign Activity, and then you would search the community for an activity. You can create folders in Settings. So the Settings is the wrench in the teacher account, and that wrench, if you scroll down, there's an area called Folders, and you can add folders. Once you have folders added, then as you find activities, you can put them into folders. So this is under Settings, under Folders, there's Manage Folders. And then the teacher adds the option to encourage students to organize their work. So you can have an add folder step for your students and have them organize their work too into folders. And I think that's really clever. If you're going to be using this for multiple different classes or for different subjects, if you make that folder step available to your students, then they can put their work in folders too. So you would select the activity to assign to the students. You would click Folders before you check and just move on. And you're going to select the appropriate folder to store the activity. So before we go on to student samples, because that's kind of the rabbit hole we can never leave, I do want to show you those steps in a teacher account. So first of all, I mentioned the settings. That is the wrench over here in the teacher account. Now, this particular class is one that I set up for the students to sign in with email. So notice that. Can you change the sign-in process? Yes. So if your students are not very friendly with using email at the beginning of the year, but you want to have more options, you can go in and switch this mode. There's all these other class settings. You can manage teachers. You can invite other teachers, which I think is super helpful. If you are new to Seesaw and you have a colleague that's a little hesitant, create a class and invite them as a teacher so they can kick the tires too with the class, or they can kind of stalk your class as you start the year, and then they might be comfortable with it. This is also great for special ed teachers, EL teachers, intervention teachers. All of these teachers can be a part of your class. Grade level, you can determine the grade level. Whatever you put there will be the default when you search for activities for your class. You can change the color and the logo. They have some here, or you can upload your image. So I uploaded that image. And then when we get here into student sign-in, managing students, those home learning codes I talked about, whether you guys can do any of these things. And then we get into families. Do you want that family access? And I created a class blog. You can make that public. And then here's our folders. So manage folders is where I would create the 3 folders that I wanted to be available for my students. Other things, save to camera roll. So for example, if I wanted everything that they're doing in the app or here to be saved to the camera roll, I can turn that on, and I can dictate my video quality. You know, the smaller the quality, the less storage that it takes and the less time it takes to upload. And so you've got skills that you can go in and you can add skills. Now we'll tell you, we are currently using the free version of Seesaw. There is a paid version of Seesaw, and we will look at that shortly. And then there's reset the QR code and family invite codes and archive the class. So that is all in settings. And I know I'm quickly going through some things. On the teacher end, I can see journal, which is all of the different responses I've had, activities where I've assigned activities, an inbox. That's where you're going to find any kind of announcements. I actually put some things here for you guys, some resources. There's a digital citizen resource. There's also Seesaw for distance learning. Notice you can view original or view the Google Doc. So if you have access to a Google account, it'll open it up. All of the links are there. And then access to our presentation. This is where I can set up skills, and there is a blog. If I wanted to set that up for my class, you don't have to. It's kind of a public version of your page or whatever you want to do there. So that is all in settings, and then the ability to add all of these for your students. As a teacher, I can post student work, assign an activity, or send an announcement. That's my alarm telling me to wrap things up. So all of that can be done in the teacher account. It is so intuitive that hopefully you're going to see that this is something that's not complicated for you to use. Just an FYI, all of the rest of these slides, most of the rest of these slides, are student examples of what was assigned at different grade levels. They even have links on some of these to what you can do, and then some samples from kindergarten to 2nd grade and 3rd through 5th grade. And I love this because I can click there and it takes me, it shows you some examples of what students have done. I love the ability for it to take a picture and draw on top of that picture. Seesaw has so many resources, it's crazy. So if everything I did today was just mush, you can go through some of their training in PD. What does it cost? You can go to the Seesaw's plans page, and I did link that photo. And you can see that most everything you can do is free. You notice that I can have 10 active classes per teacher. Most people don't need more than that. I can have 2 teachers per class. And then you can see Seesaw Plus or even Seesaw for Schools if your district wants that. I know some districts use Clever for their sign-in. Seesaw is Clever friendly. So that is something that you would discuss with your technology team. All right. Before you go to this attendance form, I always hate that I just jumped in there for the attendance form. Before you go there, let me talk to you about what I need for you guys to do. And I apologize that I did not put this into a slide. I had every intention of doing this, but I did not. So I'm going to put it into the chat. Because the way I set this class up, it's an hour and a half face-to-face. And then I wanted you to do an activity after, and that gives you a total of 3 hours credit. So I do need you to do an activity after, and so don't miss this, the activity, and I will go back and add a slide to the slideshow. I want you to create your first Seesaw class. And you're going to invite me to the class through email. And I want you to at least add 3 activities and assign. And I'm going to get you to have, let's see, add someone as a student and get them to respond to at least 1 activity. All right, so I'm going to put this in a slide, but your assignment to get your full credit for this class is, if you don't already have a Seesaw class, create a Seesaw class. You're going to invite me through email, and I am going to put in there the email that I want you to use. And you're going to add 3 activities to it. You don't have to create them from scratch. You can go to add, assign activities, and search for an activity. And I want you to add somebody as a student. I don't care if it's your own kid. I don't care if it's your husband. I don't care if it's you with another email. But I need somebody else to respond to an activity. And be sure that your class is set up so that I, as a student, can see other students' responses in the journal. So, and I will create a slide and put that in here, and I apologize, I forgot. With all these slides, how the heck did I forget this? But you're gonna make your Seesaw class, be sure you invite me, and add 3 activities. Get somebody to respond to one of those activities, and be sure you share it with my email. So I'm going to just quickly go to the Seesaw account and show you kind of that process. Down here under students, you are going to get students signed in. So whoever your other person is, whether it's you, your husband, your kids, your friend, you would send them your information for your class. Where it says email students with instructions, you're going to email me. So you're going to copy this and put it in an email and send it to that email account that I put in the chat. And be sure that you do this and send me the email so that I have within the time frame to join your class. So I'll be watching for these emails and try to join all the classes before the code expires. So be sure you don't like create the class today and then send me the email today, but then, you know, you don't have anything ready for assignments until after July 5th. So this is where you would send me an email to invite me to the class. When you're ready to add activities, you go to add, assign activity. This is that activity library I was talking about. If you go to community, you're going to see all of these assignments. And so don't just willy-nilly pick one, because the person has to have all the resources to answer it. And whatever grade you choose in your settings, it's going to be the default grade. Now, if y'all pick something like 12th grade and it's math and it's hard, I ain't doing it. So just so you know, but you just quickly would go find an activity that you like, and you would go to assign, and you can assign it for your class. So here's your test student and assign. You can also schedule so that it goes live at a certain time. All right, so that was a whole lot that that I just threw at you. I will create a slide with that information in it. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna just grab all of that really quickly, and I'm going to put myself a placeholder slide and throw that information in there. And I will make it look much better than this. But just as a reminder that that is the information I need from you guys. Now, it is important that you take the time and that you answer the attendance form. And I'm dropping that in the chat too.
Brandi, there's
Yeah.
a question.
Go ahead.
Erin is asking, do we add you as a teacher or as a student?
That's a great question. You know what? Add me as a student because I would like to look at the other student activities. So yeah, because you know what? I'm going to change that. Add me as a teacher. That's going to be better because then I don't have to worry about the code expiring. Thank you for that question, Erin. So smart. Add me as a teacher. I will put that on that slide as well. Add me as a teacher. And you're going to do that in your class settings. And I will quickly, I know this is like a hot mess right here at the end, but just bear with me. Just so that you know what I'm talking about is that when you're in your class and you go to the wrench here under class settings, that third option down is manage teachers. So you can put that bcaldwell@atem.us and it will send me that teacher thing, and then I can see all the responses. So that is what a great question. Thank you so much for that. Super smart. All right. I dropped in the attendance document, so be sure that you fill that out. And I didn't mention this. I think I might have put it in our email. I'm giving you guys a full week to finish creating your Seesaw class. Look, some of y'all are going to do it within the next hour, and I love that. Procrastinators like me will be at the last moment on Tuesday doing it, and that's okay too. But I wanted to give you a full week to get this completed just because 4th of July weekend, some of you may have stuff going on. So if you will finish that activity for me by this time next week or Tuesday of next week, then that's a week and a day to get things done. So if you will do that for me, that'll be awesome. If you don't have any other questions, you are free to go after you finish that attendance document. I will clear up that next to the last slide will have the information as well as the due date on it. And I'm going to stop my